Hey guys, it's Bryan from Press for Truth. I just wanted to report on some of the stuff that happened on the weekend, specifically at the NATO summit in Chicago, where 5 people were arrested and subsequently charged with terrorism-related activities. Those people's names were Bryan Church, Jared Chase, Brent Vincent Betterly, Sebastian Sanakiewicz, and Mark Newing. And these 5 people were arrested. Originally, the first 3 were arrested under terrorism-related charges where they alleged that they were building bombs, fire bombs and Molotov-style cocktails using beer-making supplies. And they were going to use this to throw them at police, light police on fire to distract them, and then to blow up several key spots, including the home of the mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, who has been quoted as saying in the past that you can never let a good crisis go to waste, a little bit of order out of chaos stuff there. And they were also going to try and attack various parts of the city that were symbolic, which is Barack Obama's old stomping ground before he was the president. The troubling part about what they're being charged with is that all of these allegations right now, they're offering very little evidence as to what they're actually being charged with in terms of producing the weapons that they were allegedly going to use. And a lot of this information is coming out from undercover police officers or informants, which in the past, as we've seen in Canada from the Toronto 18 back in 2006, the police can sometimes be involved in helping supply the weapons in the first place, only to villainize the people for a political agenda. Now we see stuff down in the States happening like the NDAA, where the military is now able to indefinitely imprison American citizens if they're considered enemies of the state or terrorists. So when you have 5 people getting arrested and charged under terrorism for trying to build pipe bombs or allegedly trying to build Molotov cocktails, I am in no means condoning that activity, but you have to be careful about how you're labeling these people. If we just look at the recent case of Bryan that happened at the G20 here in Toronto, this man was arrested and he was labeled as a domestic terrorist, and they said he was building bombs and that he had bomb-making equipment. And then when it finally got to court almost 2 years later, it was revealed that he was making model rockets, and the case was thrown out. So when they're saying that these kids were using a home beer-making apparatus, something that you buy from a grocery store and you can brew your own beer, and they're saying that these kids were going to use this to make massive Molotov cocktails and burn police officers, we really have to wait until this gets to court before we can figure out exactly what's going on in this case, because very often the police will try and embellish a little bit about what they're finding or the intentions of these people. They're labeling them as black bloc anarchists as well, and traditionally, from what I've known, the black bloc prefers to differentiate between vandalism and violence. They don't commit acts of violence on people, they commit acts of vandalism against corporate property. But they're alleging that these people that were arrested, the first 3, were going to intentionally try and hurt people, specifically police officers. And so again, we just have to be careful with labeling people as terrorists because of all of the new laws that have come in the last decade that can allow for indefinite detention of these people and can allow them to be treated like enemy combatants if they're considered domestic terrorists. Furthermore, it just furthers the agenda of the New World Order and furthers the agenda of the global elites by labeling these people as domestic terrorists and showing them on the evening news as, you know, the 22-year-old white kids that were born and raised in America. It's raising this idea that the new enemy is no longer somebody across the seas in another country. The new enemy is you and me and anybody out there. It could be your next door neighbor. And it creates this neo-McCarthyism where everyone is labeling their neighbor as a terrorist, and if you try and do anything to scare anybody, that can be considered a terrorist activity. If you're out protesting, that's considered low-level terrorism activity down in the United States. With the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, we're seeing all sorts of new measures that are villainizing dissent. And dissent is important because, you know, I'm speaking specifically to the people in America that are watching this. Your entire country was founded on the idea of dissent, the idea of dissenting against the British government, who is obliterating your rights, coming in and taxing you without any representation. And that's why you had the American Revolution, to get these tax kings out of your property and to allow yourselves to have a little bit of freedom in your own country. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the NATO summit specifically. The NATO summit discussed what they were going to do with Afghanistan in terms of getting the troops out. And the new French president has declared that as of the end of 2012, he wants all of the French troops out of the NATO mission in Afghanistan, and Barack Obama has guaranteed that it's irreversible, that by 2014 all of the 130,000 NATO troops in Afghanistan will be out, except for the remaining contingency, which is going to be made up of about 20,000 US and British soldiers that will remain behind. And while we're on the topic of a British invasion, let's talk a little bit about the visit to our country of the royal family, Prince Charles and his wife Camilla. In my opinion, the royal family coming to Canada to visit our resource-rich nation is simply just a storefront operation for British intelligence. There is no need for Canada to be involved in the monarchy anymore. We are a self-sustained country, and just like India used to be part of this imperialist system, we need to break free from this. Because in our country, we have something called the Governor General. And the Governor General is appointed by all of our Bilderberg appointed prime ministers who get elected to office. But he's not elected by us. We don't get to elect the Governor General, who can prorogue Parliament and call for new elections. And if you actually look at just the seating position in the House of Commons, the Governor General is seated higher up than the Prime Minister. So the most powerful position in our government isn't even something that we elect, it's something that's appointed. And to keep this idea of this celebrity royal family going on for centuries and centuries, it's done with, it's over. And people just kind of appreciate the celebrity idea of it. They want to meet these people because they're considered royalty. But in my opinion, it's over and done with, and we need to kind of break free from this and become a true sovereign nation and control our own destiny, and not be at the whim of a queen who lives thousands of miles away from us. Anyways, guys, that's what I wanted to discuss today. Just some weekend updates on NATO and a little bit about the royal family visiting Canada for the 4th year in a row. You know, our resource-rich nation truly needs to break free of this. But I'll put some links in the description to some articles on the NATO summit, including the official NATO homepage, and you can read about that and decide for yourselves how you feel about it. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys next time, and have a great day.